On the third visit of President Xi to Kazakhstan, he will attend the 17th meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Astana. What are the highlights of the meeting? As the first expansion of the organization after its foundation in 2001, India and complete the process of joining. What are the implications? Not only has the SCO been playing a positive role in safeguarding peace and stability, but it has also been facilitating regional integration. China will take over the presidency of the organization next year. What could be expected? Economic cooperation has been active among SCO member countries. As China's Belt and Road Initiative gains momentum, what are the economic prospects?
As part of his 4-day state visit to Kazakhstan, President Xi Jinping will attend the 17th meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Astana. During the summit, India and Pakistan will join SCO, the first new members since its founding in 2001. While Pakistan and India are locked in a territorial dispute over Kashmir, China also have border disputes with India. Will SCO be the platform for them to hash out their differences? To discuss this year's SCO summit and more, I'm happy to be joined in the studio by Li, Senior Fellow and Deputy Director of the Institute of South and Southeast Asian and Oceania Studies, Alexander Lukin, the head of the Department of International Studies at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow, and Saibal Dasgupta, China correspondent of the Times of India. That's our topic. This is Dialogue. I'm Yang Rui. Lili, first question is, what do you think of the implications of having India and Pakistan as new members of the SCO? That's the first round of expansion since its founding in 2001.
Okay, actually I think there are two major implications. The first one is about the representativeness of this organization. Now you can see now we have the members, they are the not only China, Russia, but also the Central Asia. Now we have the South Asia actually is inside. The second implication, I think maybe the focus of the SCO maybe have some kind of change. I think in the past they have very more cooperation on the security issue, but right now I think since India and Pakistan may have some difference on the security issues like the terrorism, so I think maybe in the future the economic area may be more easier for the organization to develop cooperation.
Alexander, would you be kind enough to let us know your thoughts on whether Russia and China find it easy to build consensus on the enlargement of SCO, the first of its kind since the founding? Is it easy for the two major members of the SCO to accept India and Pakistan, the two nuclear-armed countries in South Asia?
Well, as far as I know, it was not easy. Russia was the first to support India. This was like about 5 years ago, as far as I remember. And China was not that much against it, but the Chinese position was more that the organization should develop more smoothly itself, should achieve some goals, and maybe grow after that. But in the end, we achieved consensus because all decisions in the organization are taken by consensus. So I think now we all understand that I completely agree with my colleague from China that the organization is going to be much more influential. It will going to be the largest international organization, the largest regional international organization in the world, because it will include such big countries like China, Russia, and India. Of course, and there should be, I hope there will be push in the economic direction, because frankly speaking, the economic cooperation part is rather weak at the moment. The security is much better. Of course, there will be some difficulties because there were some difficulties between these two countries and the growth process. You know, like EU, when it grew, it had a lot of difficulties, like decision making and stuff like that. But I think the positive side is much heavier than the negative side.
Given the cultural diversity as well as different levels of economic development within the framework of SCO, it's going to be difficult to build consensus in addressing territorial disputes, or it could be the other way around. I'd like to have the Indian perspective in or about the enlargement of SCO, with India being one of the two beneficiaries.
Let me spend a minute to say that SCO is bigger and more important now with India joining and Pakistan joining for two other reasons. Many people don't notice that this will be the biggest representation of the Muslim community in the world.
Mm-hmm.
India has the third largest number of Muslims in the world. Pakistan, you have entire Central Asia, you have Muslims in Russia and also some in China. So this itself gives it an entirely new dimension. And secondly, with India and Pakistan joining both democracies, it also SCO gets a different kind of a credibility from what it was in the past. So that is one advantage. The second advantage is, it is true that territorial issues may be brought to the table. And the responsibility is now with Russia and China, whether they want to encourage internal bilateral discussions and bring about squabbles, or they want to take a broader regional view and reduce tensions. So that is a difficult game that these two countries as leaders will have to play.
People easily foresee uncertainty and more difficulties in achieving consensus, particularly with the recruiting of new members like India and Pakistan. But let's first of all take a look at the major issues on the agenda for heads of a council who attended this summit in Astana. What do you think are the most impressive ones?
So, sorry, I didn't catch.
What do you think are the most impressive issues on the agenda
Okay.
for this summit?
For this summit, I think right now the focus is on the enlargement of
The
this.
enlargement itself.
Yeah. So,
But does it mean that SCO will be incorporated into the broader framework of the Belt Initiative to sort of help build infrastructure in developing countries in Central Asia, South Asia, and of course East Europe, with Russia being a larger part of it?
Well, I wouldn't put it this way, that SCO would be incorporated into this Chinese plan. We all like China very much, and that's a big country, but I think that SCO is much broader than that, and I think that on the contrary, the Belt and Road, or at least some parts of it, especially the Belt part, would be incorporated in some Shanghai Cooperation Organization agenda, especially, and it's going to push it. It may become part of Shanghai Cooperation agenda, economic cooperation, because as I said, it was a bit weak. So we hope that the process of cooperation or coordination between Eurasian Economic Union and China, which we signed an agreement on, and also Shanghai Cooperation Organization, will form somehow a system of working and developing Greater Eurasia. And both Belt and Road and Shanghai Cooperation Organization project and Eurasian Economic Union would be part of it.
The Shanghai Cooperation Organization was founded on the principles of fighting three evil forces initially, and a closer look at the three principles, you would quickly find out that the mission is about a war against the radical ideology of a political Islamic movement. And a few minutes ago, you spoke of the new enlarged SCO would be a platform for the biggest number of Muslims in the world as a regional bloc. I believe SCO will help address the issue of Islamic extremism, which I believe, and indeed many observers pointed out, has bred catalyst for some of the extremist activities in Europe, like what happened in London, Manchester, Paris, and some cities in Germany. Therefore, do you think fighting terrorism remains the top concern for all member states.
There's no question that
No question about that.
there's no question that every member state is interested in fighting terrorism. Everybody has terrorism in some form or the other.
But the issue, the critical issue, I'm afraid, is a clear definition based on the consensus on terrorism. Don't you think even between India and Pakistan, you have a very serious differences in giving a clear definition about terrorism?
In India, Pakistan's case, terrorism and territorial integrity are meshed with each other. They are not separate. That is what is different from Islamic terrorism in other parts of the world. When it comes to IS, IS is targeting places and attacking it. But in the case of Kashmir, it is two countries having a dispute, territorial dispute, and a section of terrorists taking advantage of the situation. So it's far more complex. What I think SCO might succeed in doing, and which it may have not done it in the earlier, is that instead of looking at it from a security point of view and trying to solve a military solution, it might start looking at the political possibilities, explore political solutions. Might even talk to Afghanistan, and then Iran is wanting to join. So those are interesting dimensions that SCO is moving towards.
Iran wanted to join the SCO, and in fact China made it very clear even last year that we were very supportive of Tehran's effort to join the SCO. However, the recent diplomatic isolation of Qatar may have fueled the speculation that we're going to see more of the sectarian violence in the Middle East, with Iran and Saudi Arabia being the two arch rivals against each other. That's what we call the war of Shiite against the Sunni. Therefore, the prospects of having Iran as yet another member of the SCO may look pretty remote, adding to the uncertainty that next round of enlargement for SCO will bring more troubles than hopefully finding a solution to the existing disputes. I'd like to have your thoughts, Lili.
Yeah, actually, in my understanding, I don't think what is happening in the Middle East will be a problem for Iran to join this SCO. I think the major problem may be, Iran itself, because before, I think Iran, because of the Iranian nuclear issue, it was under the UN sanction, so there's a hesitation from the SCO to have it join.
But Tajik government was strongly critical of Iran because of the allegation that Tehran has provided one of the opposition leaders with shelter and sanctuary. Therefore, we see the spillover of some of the sectarian violence from the Gulf into the Central Asia region. Alexander.
Let me tell you about this. So first, SCO is an open organization. It has a charter which says that any country of the Eurasian region, it says, can join. So there is no legal objections to any country to join the organization. And there are only there used to be only 3 countries that applied: India, Pakistan, and Iran. So now only Iran is left. So sooner or later it will become the member. When it was under the sanctions, it was forbidden because it was one of the criteria of the organization. But now, I think it sooner or later it will become. And Russia is supportive of it because Foreign Minister Lavrov said it on many occasions. China is supportive of it. The main problem is Tajikistan now. And it is interesting that Tajikistan before, because they have very close culture with Iran. It's almost same language, very similar. And they supported Iran for a long time. But now they quarreled a little bit because, in Tajikistan they banned the opposition party. And now they say that Iran supposedly supports it, though Iran denies it. I think like big countries like India, China, and Russia at some point will have to talk to Tajikistan, and maybe we will be persuasive at some point.
Hopefully. You are watching Dialogue with Lili, Alexander Lukin, and Saibal Dasgupta. We are discussing major issues on the agenda of the SCO summit in Astana. The enlargement of this organization, the first of its kind since the founding in 2001, captures headlines. We're going to discuss such issues when we come back. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. Here is a very embarrassing challenge for all members of the SCO. Denuclearization and proliferation of weapons of mass destruction remain the top concern of Washington with the end of the Cold War in 1991. Washington has been afraid of nuclear warheads falling into the wrong hands of the rogue states. Now, Iran is a very interesting case in point. For example, Obama administration sought reconciliation with this Persian state, and yet during the era of the Trump administration, I'm afraid Washington will challenge the issue of lifting economic sanctions against Iran, given the current proxy war in Yemen and Syria, particularly the latest quarrel on Qatar between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Don't you think the nuclear issue will get featured more prominently than before, since 4 member states of SCO are nuclear armed? Russia, China, Pakistan, and India. At the same time, we have internal discrepancies, such as China refusing to accept India as a member of the nuclear supply group. So, what do you think of the haunting specter of nuclear proliferation, and what can be done by SCO, Lily, to prevent proliferation of WMD?
I don't think at the moment, there is a role SCO can play on this non-proliferation issue, because when you look at the 4 members, who now own the nuclear weapons, actually they are at a different 2 categories. The first one is China and Russia, who are the legitimate nuclear powers, But for India and Pakistan, they used to be the targets of the non-proliferation efforts, especially during their nuclear tests in 1998. And now they are still under the international pressure for them to sign the NPT. So I think this kind of issue actually are very, sensitive. I don't think SCO is the right platform to solve this problem, because they have the bilateral channels, just like the discussions right now between China and India on this NSG differences, and there are also other international arms control or NPT non-proliferation regimes. So I think right now I don't think SCO will,
Alexander, Lily tries very hard to downplay the importance of nuclear proliferation and the role SCO could play in reducing the negative impact. What are your thoughts?
I think she is right. An organization cannot do everything. SCO is a regional organization. Its aim is stimulate regional development, regional security, regional cultural exchanges. Non-proliferation system is a very difficult system. It's a very complicated, but it's separate. It's this Moscow agreement, and the countries who signed it and countries who did not sign it. I think it should be kind of separated. Maybe in sometime in the future, but I don't know any regional organization which deals with nuclear issues. That would be too difficult, except maybe Six-Party Talks, which is not an organization, but which was especially established to deal with it, and it could not deal with it, by the way.
Saibal, our Indian friend, noteworthy was the absence of an Indian head of state from the Belt and Road Summit dialogue in Beijing. At the same time, we are aware that India is very angry about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which will go through Kashmir, a contentious area between your 2 countries. Do you think SCO, by joining SCO, you're going to have more of a solution, or the other way around? Because we can go in entirely different directions. You either take SCO as a platform in seeking a solution, diplomatic solution, or you're going to see more disputes that are to flare up between not only your two countries, but Russia and China will find it very difficult to handle?
It's a very good question. You see, when it came to the Belt and Road Forum, India was the only major country to boycott it. That itself shows some kind of boldness on the part of New Delhi, because even United States, which was very reluctant, finally joined because did not want to displace
That comes as no surprise, since President Trump beats a global retreat from globalization.
Yes.
Belt and Road Initiative is not very attractive for him.
So now the point is this: will SCO start discussing Kashmir? India doesn't want the Kashmir issue to be solved in a multilateral platform. India wants it to be done in a bilateral problem. So will China and Russia allow Pakistan to raise the Kashmir issue on SCO? If that happens, and there are indications that Nawab Sharif wants to do that, then you will have a problem. But if SCO stays out of territorial disputes and focuses on its main agenda of fighting terrorism, the three evils, then there won't be any problem. But if you are going to add to the agenda and bring in new issues, just to please the ego of a politician who will go back to his country and say he has achieved so much, then you will have issues. Otherwise, the SCO will do well.
Alexander, Moscow has been a long-time friend of India, even starting from the Cold War. Much of the Indian weaponry was made in Russia. That was very impressive. Does it mean that by including India into SCO, by integrating India into SCO, Russia and China could join hand in slowing down the process of India, which wants to go east, which wants to be part of the comprehensive plan to restrict the growing influence of China, either in South China Sea, in Southeast Asia, or in the Eurasia continental mass?
Well, what they're saying about Indian intentions, it's up to you. I don't entirely agree to that, and maybe
again, you don't want to tell the
yes,
truth.
but I think that generally the SCO as an organization, as any organization, it does not deal with bilateral relations, especially bilateral disputes. Once I remember I was at NATO and I said, what do you think about one of your members occupying part of the territory of another country? And they say, we know nothing about it. We don't deal with that. So, and mind you, this dispute is not the only dispute between SCO member states. There are other, well, not territorial, but some kind of border disputes and even clashes. So SCO is not going to deal with that. But what I think what the positive role of SCO may be is that will give another platform of discussion, because like leaders of Pakistan and India, they rarely meet and talk to each other. So they are going to meet at least once a year, and they'll talk, they'll discuss things, and from that point of view it can push dialogue between the two countries. But of course Russia or any other country would not raise any of these questions during the SCO meetings, because it's not a place to do it.
For years, since the founding of the not only Shanghai Five but SCO later on, there is always a skeptical voice in Russia which questions the growing presence of China in Far East Siberia. And don't forget, Central Asia used to be a backyard of the former Soviet Union. So the growing influence of SCO may further, upset this skeptical voice in Russia. It's based on the idea that President Putin prefers to advance the blueprint of Euro-Asian Economic Union, whilst China, of course, President Xi Jinping's brainchild is the Belt and Road Initiative. President Xi made it very clear at the just concluded summit in Beijing about the Belt and Road Initiative that Belt and Road Initiative does not seek to antagonize or replace the existing mechanisms, be it the union put forward by President Putin or other similar proposals from Turkey, India, so on and so forth. What do you make of China's intent to reconcile with the differences and to alleviate the concerns of our friends?
How to say, it's very difficult for me because my knowledge is very limited to our, to regions outside South Asia, but I have some kind of observation.
Comments.
I think for the when you look at the map of China, when you look at Chinese neighborhood, I think it is one of the most difficult neighborhood for China. We have so many big countries like Russia, like India. When the so the geopolitical differences or disputes is unavoidable. So very difficult to avoid. That's why we have this kind of regional cooperation or bilateral talks. That's we should try to manage this different, but to solve it, I think they need very
Clearly, your understanding
efforts,
is that SCO will be used increasingly as a mechanism to seek solution. What are your observations
Well,
about
again,
it?
I don't subscribe to all this journalistic talk. We don't have any
Hey, come on.
concerns.
Don't question the job of the media people. Okay? I don't
we
want to be
don't-
made redundant.
We don't
I
have
don't want to lose my job.
We don't have any concerns about China and Russia. We cooperate with China. We have a declaration signed in 2015 between Eurasian Economic on coordination. In Chinese, it's 对接.
Yeah,
The coordination,
接轨
to coordination between this
或接吻
Eurasian Economic Union and Chinese Silk Road Belt program, and we have some specific projects. We have already started on expert level discussing this Greater Eurasia idea. What kind of specific issues we are going to discuss and some specific projects. So I don't see that any kind of competition. There may be, of course, competition between companies, between big companies, even supported by the government, but you can see it everywhere. But on the political level, we don't have any pro-China on that. So the cooperation goes on quite smoothly, I think.
Very quickly, are you optimistic about the future of SCO given so many disputes, bilateral or even between Russia and China?
No, absolutely. If the SCO stays with its agenda and does not enter into other controversies, bilateral controversies, then SCO will do very fine. I mean, this is the biggest regional organization that there is.
Thank you so much for clarifying some of the confusion and giving us a rosy picture about the future of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which was founded in the year 2001. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.